Welcome to NinjaCast, a photography podcast powered by Studio Ninja, the world's highest-rated business management app, built specifically for photographers. Listen and learn as the most successful photographers on the planet share their knowledge to help you transform every element of your photography business. Here's your host, Sally Shaw.
Hi guys, welcome to NinjaCast. Today I'm joined by the lovely Martina Hohnjec. Martina is a photographer based out of Croatia, but also the Middle East. Today we're going to be talking about all things from arranged marriages, destination weddings and how to get them within your portfolio, and also multicultural weddings and what you need to be aware of when you're shooting a wedding that isn't your own culture. Let's get started. Hi Martina, how are you?
Hi, very nice to see you here. I'm very well, thank you so much. And how about you?
Yeah, I'm really well, thank you. Really good. Thank you so much for carving out some time in your busy schedule to come and chat with us. I'm actually really excited for this episode. I say this quite a lot, but this one I feel is really different and something we've definitely never had on NinjaCast before.
Oh, okay, awesome. So I'm a pioneer with the topic and I'm always up for a good chat. So super happy to see you today and talk to you.
Amazing. Well, let's jump straight in. Can you give our listeners a little bit of a background on you, your journey in the industry so far, your history before today?
Oh, my history. Well, I started my photography journey back in the high school. So more 10, 15 years ago. I don't even count anymore. At some point, I think you stop counting the years.
For sure.
And one day I just decided to take a point and shoot camera and started photographing my friends.
Mm-hmm.
No plan, no idea, no knowledge, no previous interest in photography. And I was just clicking. So I started doing a lot of portraits and what turned later into fashion photography. And at some point I thought, oh, it would be very nice to actually earn some money from photography instead of, just making everyone awesome pictures.
Uh-huh.
So somehow I got an opportunity to photograph a wedding. And back in the days, especially in Croatia, where I'm from, wedding photographers weren't something that you would be bragging about. It wasn't something fancy. It wasn't something really cool. It was kind of like, oh, you photograph weddings, poor you. But okay, it was money. So I was like, I'm just going to do it. Little did I know is that I'm actually going to fall in love with the weddings and that I'm going to steer my career towards there and pursue it ever since. So I have been doing wedding photography for last decade.
Wow.
Yeah, quite a lot of that's why I stopped counting time. But it has been really, really interesting journey. As I said, started in Croatia and now we're talking about destination weddings. So
Absolutely, for sure. We're going to delve into that deeper, I know, but I know that you have kind of two bases, don't you? So you have Croatia and you also have.
So I'm that's always a tricky question that I never know how to answer because like I'm everywhere. So what I think the smartest thing to say is that I have two bases, which is Europe and Middle East.
Mm-hmm.
And in Europe, it's either Croatia or Cyprus. Obviously, I'm from Croatia, but I have been living in Cyprus for quite some years, which was my first home away from the home.
Mm-hmm.
And where I'm talking now from is from Doha, Qatar in Middle East, where I do a lot of royal weddings and different kind of weddings than what we do in Europe. So it's kind of nice to fill up your summer season in Europe. And winter season is when in Europe we mostly sleep and edit and focus on our branding and websites. But this is the peak season in Middle East because of the weather. So I don't have a holiday, actually.
No, you don't have any downtime, do you? Any time to relax and just, not have to shoot weddings.
But this is why I always kind of, whenever I travel somewhere, I connect it a little bit with my personal time, at least a day or two.
So what took you to the Middle East? So you're from Croatia. I can totally see that you would end up shooting weddings all across Europe. That makes total sense. Why the Middle East? What took you there?
Shameful to say, but before coming to Qatar, I didn't even know what Qatar is. I thought it was a football team because it was always on the football t-shirts. So totally ignorant about Middle East. But while I was living in Cyprus, I met some people in Cyprus, and I was actually photographing their wedding. And I got invited to Qatar to visit and to spend some time, which was beautiful. And somehow I got in touch with the people who were doing wedding photography here. Funny thing about Qatar is that women and men celebrate weddings separately. So on female weddings, you need to have a female photographer, female videographer. Men are not allowed because ladies uncover, and it's a fashion show. It's very glamorous, it's very fancy. And I realized, okay, that's something to take advantage of. Finally pays off to be a woman. Um, little by little, I started doing more weddings, and then at some point, I kind of relocated here more, and then I was on here and there and here and there, and that's how it happened. So no plan again. Like as much as I entered into photography, I never have a plan. I just follow the flow as it goes. Wherever the wind blows, I go with it. And so far, it has been bringing me wonderful things that I would never experience just by thinking of it.
Absolutely. I mean, it sounds like in that last decade or more, it's been a bit of a whirlwind for you, right? I mean, to go from, somebody who's in Croatia who didn't really have their heart set on shooting weddings to now being over in the Middle East, shooting all these spectacular weddings. That's your life, that's your business. That's a hell of an achievement.
Well, my rule was always, while I'm young and while I don't have family, what's the worst thing it can happen? I will go somewhere and I will not like it. If that happens, okay, I'm going to pack my bag, say thank you, and I'm going to go somewhere else. Mm-hmm. So I always had that, well, I can call it adventurous sense of living, just going with whatever opportunity shows up and grabbing it. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it has been a whirlwind of moments and countries and people and cultures, and it has been really amazing. I think this is also, people say that you learn from the books, but when you actually travel, you really get that knowledge. And imagine how it is when you're actually photographing the weddings of different cultures. So for me, it has been amazing journey.
I feel like I've missed out that all I've done is just live in the UK my whole life. I feel like I should have I should have gone to different countries and run my business from different countries. That sounds amazing. So I feel like you're perhaps a little bit of an expert on destination weddings, especially perhaps kind of cultures over in the Middle East now then. So what would be your top tips for our listeners that are, hearing everything you're saying and going, destination weddings, I really want to do that. I like the sound of that.
But with destination weddings, as you say, it sounds really cool having the business in different countries, but it definitely comes with the challenges. It's not super easy, and it's not, all the nice pictures I put on Instagram. It definitely has a load of its challenges. Like, well, obviously, you're always relocating. You're never at the same place. So it's very hard to keep long-term friends. I have one person from Cyprus that I'm still in touch with very rarely, but we are here for each other. So, you don't have that beautiful thing that you have while you live in one country. Plus, starting businesses in different places is not easy. Like, let me tell you, it's not easy. Networking in new countries when no one knows about you. Oh my goodness, it's not easy. Like seriously, you're in UK for your whole life and you know people and people know you, and whatever happens, your name is well known there. You go to a new place, no one knows, but like no one knows. And you have to start everything from the beginning. And every time you go to a new location, to a new country, you have to start it from the beginning. And especially with the destination weddings, if you just go and travel, let's put the business side on the side. You're not establishing a new business in the country, but you're just traveling for a destination wedding. you definitely have challenges there as well. You oftentimes don't get to meet in person bride and groom or the other vendors or the wedding planner. You're kind of dependent on online talking and phones, which sometimes can be challenging. You don't know location beforehand, so you have to learn how to be very fast on the spot, and you need to learn how to improvise. But it definitely comes with beautiful things, because now it sounds like I'm totally like, don't do destination weddings.
No,
No,
because you've got to be realistic too, right? I mean, I've shot a couple of destination weddings. The last one I shot was in Ibiza in Spain, which doesn't seem as exotic and as wonderful as the Middle East. It's like just over the pond for us. But that I remember doing that one, and everything goes a million miles an hour. My brain was going a million miles an hour, more so than when I was shooting a wedding here in the UK, because there's so many more variables to add in. There's so many, different things that could go wrong. What if your flight gets delayed? What if my bag gets lost? Have I definitely got my cameras on my person? What if my batteries get taken off me at the airport? Like, there's so much to think about, isn't there? So I think, yes, people must hear destination weddings and think, oh, I'd love to shoot a destination wedding. I'd love to go and shoot in the Middle East. I'd love to shoot in Croatia. I would love to shoot them all. But I think actually you have to be very realistic about all of the things that come with that.
Exactly. You're 100% right. Everything you said about your experience of destination wedding is 100% true. So you have a lot of stress, you have a lot of anxiety. You think about the things you might not even think when you have your typical wedding on a weekend. But it definitely comes with a cool thing. You get to visit nice places. You get to spend extra day or two or even a week there, and kind of have your personal vacation or a holiday. For example, when I was photographing a wedding in India, that was the biggest anxiety I had, because India is very different place in the world. Very I'm not even sure what kind of adjective to use, but it's India. And they took all of my equipment out of the bag. Like it was a mess. It was just a mess. And imagine what you said. What if something happens at the airport? They just decide, oh, this battery for some reason is not okay to enter here. So it can be scary. I have moments where I'm there and I'm like acting cool, but like I'm sweating and I'm panicking inside with a smile on my face, like, no, everything is okay. But I think it also goes to the part, while I'm young and while I don't have a family, I'm pretty sure that one day when things might change, I will have my priorities different. So I kind of want to maximize my time now and visit all the beautiful places, and I would say improve myself as a photographer, because as you said, your brain was working 100 miles an hour. You had to think about a lot of things, and I think that's a great path for you to grow as a photographer, as an artist, as a business person. So I would definitely recommend everyone to try it at least a few times, not necessarily go in that direction as a profession, but at least try it and give yourself that opportunity to grow.
I love that. So if our listeners are maybe sat there thinking, okay, I'm hearing this, I'm liking it, I could give this a go. How can they start to market themselves for a destination wedding? Let's say, they're in the UK, they might, the US, Australia, and they want to start to shoot weddings that aren't in their country. Where do you begin?
What I learned from my experience is there are two things. You can either target the clients, the bride and groom, or you can target the wedding planners. The wedding world changed, so a lot of destination weddings are going through the wedding planner. So if you have a good connection with them, they will recommend you. So go towards the wedding planners. That might even be easier, but then you kind of lose a little bit of your own I'm not sure what word to use, like maybe freedom in communication with the bride and groom, because you're going through a wedding planner. If you want to target clients directly, bride and groom, then it would be good that you have a portfolio that kind of resembles the location where they're getting married. For example, UK is very green. UK is very gloomy in sense that there's not a lot of sun compared to Spain, for example, where you shot the destination wedding. So, if your portfolio shows only beautiful greenery with typical British castles with the gloomy weather, and you're trying to get a wedding in Ibiza, well, that's going to be hard because the bride and groom are going to see like, yeah, but this is not what we want. We're going to have a wedding during the sunshine and it's going to be all sunny and it's going to be sunset. And girl, you haven't seen sun, So it would definitely be great if you can create a portfolio that speaks to the clients that you want to attract. Now, of course, if you're in UK, how do you do that? How how do you get a sunny beach and beautiful golden hour with cocktail bars around you? This is why I utilize my vacations as well. Like when I travel somewhere, either personally or for another work, I like to use it to the max, which means if I want to have extra portfolio from that place, I would create a shoot. I would organize something where I can show people, look, I've been here. I know the area. I understand the location. I understand the people. I understand the culture. And this is what I'm capable of. Mm-hmm. So I create the trust with the people who might be getting there. And thank God we have social media and internet. So it's super easy to find people around. Like 10 years ago when I started, that was impossible. So today things are super, super, super easy. I think that's the easiest way to start and then see how it goes. And then maybe in the meantime, realize I don't actually like destination weddings. That can also be a chance.
Absolutely. I love that tip. That's great. So in terms of you've touched kind of briefly there on cultures and things. So let's delve into that a little bit more. Obviously, you've worked in many different beautiful destinations. You must have come across many traditions, cultures, just the way that the wedding plays out in the day, even, the format for the wedding must be so different. Can you tell us about a few experiences that you've had, a few memories?
Oh, wow. When you say that, like I get like a whole bunch of pictures and it's like, select one. It's like
couple's fine.
It's like choosing your favorite camera, and that's so hard. Well, I was photographing weddings, obviously, in Europe and in Africa. I was in Morocco, Middle East. I was in a few countries here, and I was in India. And for me, it's really cool how you get to learn about different culture and traditions and wedding habits in different places. But it's also interesting that some of the places have similarities. So it's incredible to learn about the culture through the wedding, as I mentioned before. Middle East and India, for example, they would have more arranged marriages than what we have in Europe. I don't actually think anyone in Europe is having an arranged marriage anymore because we are very open-minded and independent and free in a way that we get to choose our own partners and date them and live with them before we make such a decision. Yeah. And some countries don't have such benefit. The places that are very traditional, they still go through arranged marriage process, and photographing those kind of weddings can be tricky at first. And going back to it, it allows you to grow as an artist. Being in a situation that is very new, very challenging in a way, and very unpredictable because you don't know what's going to happen. Definitely lets you grow. I was photographing weddings on which I did not understand the word that was going on. I had one Russian wedding. I had one Lithuanian wedding as well. Okay, with Russia and Lithuania, they were pretty much similar to what we know. You would have small differences, but then you just go with the flow and see what happens, and you're there to capture it. But yeah, I mean, for me, it's not that challenging. It is challenging. It's not hard to photograph weddings that I might not know everything that's going to happen as it is, because it's always full of surprises. I think the bigger challenge is to work with arranged marriage couples. Yeah, definitely that's more challenging.
Do you recall the first arranged marriage that you ever shot?
Oh my goodness, I do. And I don't know if it was more awkward for me or for the couple. And it was so awkward. You can cut the awkwardness with like a butter knife. I just flew to Doha from a wedding I had in Cyprus. So I had like a beautiful couple. They were actually British, who were very cuddly and very intimate. Um, Amazing wedding. It was full of emotions. And then I stepped my foot in Qatar, and it was my first Middle Eastern wedding, and it was like a properly arranged marriage. I'm not sure if that was the first or second time they saw each other, but imagine, like, they never held hands, they never kissed, they never went on a date. Every time, like, in case they met, they would meet in the presence of the family, and then the whole conversation obviously would be awkward. And I'm there, two of them standing in front of me, like 2 meters separated, and I'm supposed to do something romantic. And I'm like, oh my goodness, how you are like so far away. You don't even feel comfortable looking each other in the eye. What in earth can I do here to make it look even remotely that you don't? I'm not even sure.
You haven't just met.
Yes. And another challenging part is that weddings, because the ladies in Middle East, Muslims, they are covered. So on the wedding, they wouldn't be covered. So everything is kind of limited towards the hotel room or the premises of the wedding. So there's no going outdoor. There is no ability for them to walk and hold hands and fake it. So everything that we do on our normal European weddings, we don't do it here in Middle East. So I was like in maybe, I don't know, 20 square meters room, hotel room, with two of them so far from each other. And I was like, okay, guys, can you come a little bit closer? And they're like, okay, they came closer, but it's still super far. I mean, you meet someone new, you go on a first date, you are closer with that stranger on a first date than two of them were close to each other. So it was just a game of going step by step. And I was very honest with them. I said, guys, normally I do this, and you're my first Middle Eastern couple, and I will try to be considerate about the tradition and the things that you would normally do. And I'm just going to go step by step. And once I reach that limit, like if you feel uncomfortable doing something or you just don't want to do it, you don't even have to explain. You can just give me a mean look, like give me a look, and I'm just going to shut it off. So let's see how far I can go in terms of creating intimacy. And they were cool with that. She was not feeling comfortable looking at him at all. So I kind of faked, her being shy and him looking at her and maybe giving her a kiss in the cheek. And that was like 5 minutes of trying to convince them, please give her a kiss in the cheek. You just kissed your mother in the cheek. But yeah, it was super uncomfortable for me because I felt that I cannot deliver the quality I normally deliver. And I was freaking out that they're going to hate the pictures, and how are they going to like it when, you can see the awkwardness on them. So I was just throwing jokes. I was being silly. And I was capturing the moments when they were actually burst in the laughter because I said something super stupid. And at the end, those pictures turned out so romantic.
Yeah.
We faked it fantastically, and I was like, whoo, okay, did it. That's a success. But yeah, it definitely, again, pushes you to the levels that you didn't even think you can go towards to.
And are you still shooting arranged marriages while you're out there now? Is that still a regular part of your business?
It is. I mean, the clients changed in a way that I established myself on the market, in terms of the quality of the work and in terms of the price. So nowadays I would be getting more traveled clients, more educated clients, clients with more open-minded families. So I had a lot of clients, brides and grooms who met each other before, maybe at the college, and they actually fell in love. Now, it's still a thing that it's not super okay to say it out loud, but people share it with me because, well, I'm like rooting for that.
Yeah.
So it changed a little bit. I don't get those situations anymore where they would see each other for the first time on the wedding. Thank God. Been there, done that. But yeah, now I know how to deal with the people, even if they knew each other from before, but they just feel uncomfortable because showing affection in public is not very common here. And then when you get a stranger in front of your face with a camera who is looking at you while you're giving each other a hug, it can be intimidating. But I think, well, it's very silly to say, but I think that my clients do feel comfortable with the way I try to work with them, and they are grateful for me to try to push them sometimes to maybe extend that boundary of what's uncomfortable. There is one rule actually I use: hate me now, love me later.
I love that.
Yes, because okay, in the moment, they're not allowed to live together before the marriage. They're not allowed to consume the marriage before. So yes, there is definitely a big part of awkwardness, even if they know each other and they are maybe in love. So hate me now, in 1 year, 2 years, 10 years, you're going to be so thankful for having these photos where you actually see that love that is going to grow at some point between you two.
Yeah, that's the crazy thing, isn't it? I guess with the weddings that certainly we're used to over here in the UK, and cultures where they aren't an arranged marriage, or they've dated for a few years before they've got married, they've lived together, that kind of thing. You have that love before you get married, but that totally flips on its head, doesn't it, with some of your couples, in that they get married, then they find that love, they have to develop it.
Yes, and it's such an interesting thing for me. At some point, I was thinking, are the love marriages better or worse than the arranged ones? Because, family chooses for you in a way, and family is supposed to know you the best. So they are choosing based on some details they know about you and someone they think might fit and be a good match for the life. But yes, they definitely have to develop it over the time if they're planning to grow together and succeed as a couple.
So obviously we've jumped into quite a lot of detail there. We've gone in depth on arranged marriages, different cultures, all the different things. What is it that you would say to kind of yourself 10 years ago if a photographer came to you today and said, look, I want to experience shooting an arranged marriage. I want to experience different cultures, getting married and shooting those different formats of the day. What would be your top tips that they have to consider when they're doing that?
Well, definitely Google. Okay, 10 years ago, you couldn't Google as much as information as you can Google today. But today, definitely Google about the place you're going and the culture you're going to be working with. Again, it's an amazing thing to have all that information available online that before we didn't have, and you had to like find the people who know something and invite them for a coffee and get a little bit about their brain. So that would be a step number one. Kind of understand where you're going and with whom you're going to be working, because you don't want to put yourself in a situation that you do something that is going to disrespect someone. Out of ignorance, of course, not because you want to, but not a cool thing. People are having their wedding and it's the happiest day of their life. They don't need anything to ruin it. So really understanding what's happening, what is expected from you, and in which direction you can fulfill the traditional expectations, but add on your own flavor. That's really, really important. When I was traveling to India, I was photographing a wedding where I wasn't the only photographer. So they had 2 or 3 different teams that were taking pictures and video. Yeah, it was chaos. And then there was me. I was the only person who came alone because I work the best alone, especially if it's a smaller coverage. If we're talking about big coverages, that's a topic for itself. But they invited me because they had their super traditional thing, and they wanted my flavor. They wanted my eyes that would see things from a different perspective, from a different habits. And I did some beautiful shots for them that were completely different from their other three teams. So I think it's important to kind of find the balance in between what the clients might expect and how can you contribute in terms of your style and your approach and your different culture at the end.
Absolutely. Do you have any tips on perhaps kind of creating those romantic, timeless shots that you're talking about? So, I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start if I had a couple stood in front of me, they were getting married, and that was the first time meeting each other. That would just blow my mind to even think, how am I going to make this work? How am I going to, how are they going to look back in their wedding photos and think, oh, they're beautiful? So how did you do it? How kind of talk us through a bit, how did you pose them? How did you direct them? How did you get them to engage like that?
I think I started it with thinking, how would I feel if someone arranged me a marriage and I need to stand there with a complete stranger who I just married and I have to spend the rest of my life with that person? And I started building the things through me being able to not feel what they're feeling, but try to understand what they're feeling. So when I work with arranged marriages, okay, again, it depends on the couple, but I wouldn't be so focused on stiff poses because especially if they have to be close to each other, it can get really awkward. Like they would lean head on the head, but after 3.5 seconds, they would be like, okay, is it enough? Do we have the picture? So I would start gradually. That's the thing, because I cannot do the same things with everyone, and not everyone has the same limit. So I would just start with holding the hands and going closer, holding the hands and looking to each other, holding hands, looking to each other, and maybe giving a hug around the waist. So this would be my principle. And then I would see when they would start reacting with panic in their eyes. With some couples, I can do, let's lean head on the head and, smell her forehead and give her a gentle kiss in the forehead. But with a lot of them, I can, because that's something they never did maybe. And imagine how awkward it must feel to do it for the first time in front of the camera. So I also don't push them too much, understanding that, yes, I want you to have a beautiful pictures, but I also want you to discover that beautiful journey in your own intimacy and kind of figure out what you like. When we're photographing weddings in Europe, and then you kind of already see dynamics of the couple. You see who is the one who hugs more or kisses, or when you tell them, kiss each other, you would see how they would embrace each other. You would see how they would kiss each other. And then you would build your story according to that. This is how you would pose them. This is what kind of action you would ask from them. Here, you literally have to start with a blank piece of paper and create it on your own. And as you go, feel how they feel about it. And then decide which direction you're gonna take it. So definitely not an easy thing. Now when I'm talking to, I'm realizing, like, that's quite challenging. I never thought about it.
Absolutely. I think that's what intrigued me the most about this whole episode. And, for me, like I've never shot an arranged marriage or a marriage where the couple don't know each other very well. For me, it's always been the normal traditional European weddings where they've dated, they've lived together for a while, they get engaged, they plan their wedding together, they then get married. So it's just such a foreign concept to me to think, how is that even physically possible to make that look lovely?
Well, obviously somehow it is. I mean, I do feel drained after such weddings. I really feel much more drained than when you do 10, 12, 14-hour crazy wedding in Europe. I think I feel more drained when I do arranged marriage, where I really have to put myself into it and put a lot of energy in creating something. And this is why I like to have winter season with those, and then summer season just kind of, whoo, okay, let's get that energy back. Let's refuel my batteries, because it's not easy. And thank you for making me think about it. And now I'm like, oh, great. I'm like, feel like a superhero.
I was going to say a bit of a superwoman over there.
Yeah, definitely not an easy thing. But I think it also helped me to be able to find myself in any kind of situation anywhere in the world and quickly be able to improvise. Because going back to my first arranged marriage, I was literally there, and it was awkward, and it was up to me to make it less awkward or more awkward, and I prefer to do it less awkward. So it just, again, makes you grow in that area.
For sure, definitely. Well, I've absolutely loved this. I've learned so much. If you could start your whole career all over again, Martina, is there anything you'd do differently? Anything you'd change?
I don't think so. I mean, okay, would be nice to do all that journey in a shorter period of time, learn things quicker. But I don't think I would actually change something. I mean, the good thing about when I started my career, I was limited with the equipment. I didn't have a lot of money to, buy all the fancy things and the gadgets. I built my career with one Nikon camera and 50 millimeter lens, a prime. That was my it. I had one wide lens, which was really not that good, but it was like, in case I really, 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 really have to use it, okay, I have it in the bag. And I think that made me also be creative in utilizing the equipment I have and finding the way how to still make an amazing result without being obsessed with, oh, I need this and I need that in terms of equipment. And maybe that's also a reason what made me be focused on emotions rather than the technical aspect of it.
Sure. Which I guess is that's massive when you shoot the type of weddings that you shoot or that you have shot in the past. You can't be focused on your equipment. You have to be focused on either capturing the emotion that's there or trying to create that emotion if it's not present at all.
That thing you used, create the emotion, that's fantastically described. Fake it till you make it. Takes a whole new meaning in this case.
Sure, absolutely. Martina, if you can add a final piece of advice to our listeners, maybe something that's made a big difference for you, either in your business or your personal life, what would that one piece of advice be?
Okay. Can I give you two? Because just two popped into my head.
And I'll let you.
You get one extra. One major thing that I feel that I'm still learning, I'm much better in it, but it's still work in progress, is to learn that no is a full sentence. Especially when you start working weddings, or if you're doing collaborations with planners who are at the destination you want, you really need to learn how to say no if something doesn't fit your style or your brand, or you don't feel it. There is something off. And it took me many, many years to start remotely being comfortable by saying no, because I always felt like a boogeyman if I would just decline something, and it's not. It actually serves you and serves your business, and you end up being more clear with the direction you want to go. As I said, for me, it's still work in progress. It's not 100% there, but I'm much better than before, and I can see more happiness around what I do when I have control over what I accept and what I don't. And maybe the second, I'm not sure that's like a proper advice, but it's something that served me very well, both in my professional life and personal, is to ask questions. I know it sounds super silly, because why would you ask questions? Or, oh, I'm already doing that. But the more questions you just ask, the more things you're going to discover. And what I noticed long term it helps me removing those situations where there is miscommunication, or you're not able to fulfill your client's expectations because, oh, you thought something, but what they actually thought was something else.
Mhm.
So I love to ask questions, not only in terms of that, but also to understand who my clients are as people, to understand their personality, and then to be able to serve them better when they're in front of my camera.
Oh, love those two pieces of advice. Thank you so much. Martina, if our listeners would like to get in touch with you, find out a little bit more about you, have a look at your work, how can they do that?
Whoever wants to get in touch, I'm always super happy to chat. As you can see, I can talk a lot. No, I'm always happy to connect with creatives and people who are doing something amazing, because I think it contributes us all as artists and photographers. So whoever is interested can pop me a message on my Instagram, which is photography_timeless. Or you can get in touch through my website, which is photography-timeless.com.
That's perfect. I've absolutely loved this chat and this episode. So thank you so, so much from me, but also from our listeners, because there was so much great information and tips in there. So thank you.
I'm super happy to share a little bit of my experience. And I think later you and I need to talk for you actually coming to Middle East to try all that by yourself and experience it on your skin.
100%. I'm there.
Thank you so much.
Oh, it's such a pleasure, Martina. I'll hopefully catch you soon.
Catch you soon. Have a wonderful day.
Bye-bye. Bye.
Okay, guys, that's everything from me today. Thank you so much again to Martina for coming and joining us and imparting all of her knowledge and expertise on different cultures, destination weddings, and arranged marriages. If you'd like to see more, you can head to the show notes at www.studioninja.co/episode 60. As always, guys, please don't forget to rate us on the podcast platform that you're listening on. A little bit of love goes a very long way. I'll see you next time.
Thanks for listening to this episode of NinjaCast, brought to you by Studio Ninja. Beautifully designed and super easy to use, Studio Ninja will help you manage your leads, clients, shoots, invoices, contracts, workflows, and so much more. To learn more or start your 30-day free trial, go to www.studioninja.co.